May 1945. The war was over in Bavaria, Germany. Thousands of German officers were in American prisoner of war camps waiting to go home. And while waiting, they had begun to complain about their situation. The food was insufficient, the beds were hard, there was no hot water, and they wanted better treatment. After all, they were officers and they deserved respect. The complaints reached General Patton's desk. He read one, then another, then all of them. German officers who had fought their way across Europe were now complaining about their cots, their food portions, and their toilet facilities. Patton made a decision. He ordered trucks. He loaded the complaining officers onto them. He told them they would be transferred to a different facility. The trucks moved east, toward the Bavarian countryside. The officers began to notice they were approaching a familiar place. Patton was taking them to a concentration camp, to the place where his victims had lived, suffered, and died. When those German officers walked through that gate, what happened silenced all their complaints forever. This is the story of the tour that broke arrogance. Before understanding this, think about it. When a war ends, what does a defeated army deserve? What do you owe them? And what about what they did to others? Before getting into how this event unfolded, if you want to learn more untold stories from World War II, click the subscribe button and support us for free. May 1945, Germany had surrendered. The American army found itself responsible for hundreds of thousands of German prisoners, not just enlisted men, but officers too, men who had commanded divisions, led battalions. They were housed in temporary facilities, tents, barracks, basic amenities, not luxury but safe, clean, 3 meals a day, medical care available. For a prisoner of war camp, these were good conditions. Far better than how the Germans had treated Allied prisoners, better than what they deserved, and they complained. Not quietly, not privately. Official written complaints, neatly signed, submitted through proper channels. The food was inadequate. It was unbecoming of the honor of German officers. They wanted German food prepared by German cooks. The sleeping conditions were unacceptable. Bunk beds in shared barracks, no privacy. They were officers. There should be rooms, beds, not military bunks. The sanitary facilities were insufficient. Shared toilets, no hot water. They demanded proper bathrooms, hot showers. One German colonel's complaint actually used the phrase violation of the Geneva Convention. He argued the conditions constituted cruel treatment. The complaints piled up, dozens, then hundreds. German officers who had spent years fighting across Europe were now demanding better conditions from the army that had defeated them. The complaints reached divisional headquarters, moved up to corps headquarters, and eventually piled up on Patton's desk. Patton read them all, one by one. He sat in his office, stacks of paper before him. One was asking for clean sheets, another for coffee instead of tea. A major was complaining that the meal portions were too small. Patton's staff officers watched him as he read. His face gave nothing away, no anger, no amusement, just concentration. When he finished reading, he stood up. He walked to the map on the wall. He traced a route with his finger. Then he turned to his chief of staff. Arrange transport for approximately 200 German officers. Trucks, armed guards, tomorrow morning. The staff officer asked, "Are we transferring them to a different camp?" In a manner of speaking, which facility? Patton pointed to the map. Dachau. The room went silent. The staff officer spoke. "Sir, that's a concentration camp." It was. "It's empty now. The survivors evacuated. The camp is being preserved as we found it. I want these complaining officers to see it." The next morning, 200 German officers were told they were being transferred. They were loaded onto trucks, escorted by armed guards. The officers assumed they were being taken to a better facility. Someone had finally listened to their complaints. They were going somewhere more suitable to their rank. The trucks moved through Bavaria. The German officers looked out at their homeland. Some recognized the area. They were heading east toward Munich. A colonel turned to the major beside him. "Perhaps they're taking us to a proper military facility, somewhere more fitting." The major nodded. "About time." The conditions at that camp were beneath our rank. The trucks slowed, turned off the main road, and the officers saw where they were, a massive gate, electrified fences stretching in every direction, guard towers every 100 meters, and above the entrance the inscription, "Arbeit macht frei, work sets you free." The truck stopped. American soldiers unloaded the Germans, lined them up. Patton was waiting inside, in full uniform, standing upright just inside the gate, his 4 stars gleaming. He didn't shout, his voice was calm and cold. "Gentlemen, you have submitted numerous complaints regarding your living conditions, the quality of your food, the comfort of your beds, the state of your sanitary facilities. You have argued that your rank entitles you to certain standards." Paused. He let the silence fill. I have brought you here to provide context, to show you what standards actually look like. He signaled to the guards, "Take them in." The tour began. The first stop was the barracks, wooden structures built to house perhaps 200 people. The Germans saw that the Nazis had crammed more than 1,000 people into each one. The bunks were 3 tiers high, wooden frames, no mattress, no bedding, just wood. People lay packed together, no room to move. An American lieutenant who had been part of the liberation force explained in German, "The prisoners slept in shifts. Not everyone could lie down at the same time, they took turns." A German officer interrupted, "This is propaganda. No facility houses people this way." The lieutenant looked at the man. "The prisoners we rescued told us. Some are still in hospitals in Munich. If you want to call them liars, you can visit them yourself." They moved to the punishment cells. Small rooms, perhaps 4 feet by 4 feet. Concrete walls, no window. A drainage channel in the floor. Nothing else. Prisoners were locked in here for days, sometimes weeks. No light, no toilet. They stood upright because there was no room to lie down. The German officers were silent now. No more interruptions. They saw the medical experimentation rooms. The equipment was still there. Tables, instruments, documents on the walls. Records of hypothermia experiments, pressure chamber tests, experiments conducted on living human beings. One German officer vomited and turned away. An American guard stopped him. "No, you will look. You will see all of it." They saw the crematoria, the furnaces where bodies had been burned, the scale of it, the industrial magnitude, the traces of mass murder made mechanical, systematic. Patton had arranged something else as well. Survivors, former prisoners recovering in nearby areas. He had asked for volunteers. Dozens had come. They stood in front of the barracks. Skeletal figures wearing striped uniforms that hung off their frames. Some could barely stand upright. They didn't speak. They didn't accuse. They simply stood there and looked at the German officers. The Germans averted their eyes, looked at the ground at their feet, anywhere but the eyes of the survivors looking back at them. One survivor stepped forward, an elderly man. He pointed a finger at a German colonel and spoke in German. "I know you. You were at the labor camp in Poland in 1943. You selected workers from our group and sent the rest to the gas chambers. You selected my son. He was 12 years old. You fixed your eyes on him and pointed left." The colonel's face went pale. "I was only following orders. You were smiling when you pointed." "I remember." The colonel said nothing. He had nothing to say. Another survivor spoke, pointing to a different officer. "You were at Mauthausen. You beat a man to death for taking extra bread." "I watched it myself." The officer denied it. "That wasn't me. You're mistaken." The survivor raised his arm. He showed the tattoo. "The number. I was there. I saw you. Don't tell me I'm mistaken." Patton let it continue. Let the survivors speak. Let them identify the officers they recognized. Let them tell what they had seen. Some German officers tried to defend themselves. They were only following orders. They didn't know. They weren't responsible. The survivors didn't argue, didn't debate. They simply looked. The evidence surrounding them spoke louder than any argument. After 3 hours, Patton brought it to an end. He gathered the German officers in the assembly area, the very place where prisoners had been counted, selected, where they had watched their friends be dragged away. Patton spoke one final time. "You complained about your food. You have just seen a place where people fought over scraps, where starving men died within sight of garbage. You complained about your beds. You have just seen a place where thousands lay crammed together in their own filth. You complained about your dignity. You have just seen a place where human dignity was systematically destroyed, where people were reduced to numbers, where they were slaughtered simply for existing. You are officers of the army that did this. You swore an oath to the regime that built this. You commanded the men who guarded these places, and you had the audacity to complain about your beds and your food." He paused. "You want better treatment? You're getting it. You're alive. You're being fed. You're safe. You are being treated far better than what was shown to those who ended up here. If you cannot understand why that is more than you deserve, then you have learned nothing today." He turned to the guards. "Take them back to camp." The trucks returned in silence. No talking. No complaints. Just silence. The German officers went back to the POW camp, to their bunks, their regular meals, their safe, clean, ordinary captivity. The official complaints stopped, completely. Immediately. Not a single written complaint came in after that day. The American guards noticed something else as well. The German officers now ate everything on their plates. They wasted nothing, left nothing behind. Some were seen hoarding bread, the marks left on men who had witnessed what hunger truly looked like. Patton's decision was controversial. Some American officers argued it was unnecessary. They suggested that subjecting prisoners to a concentration camp tour constituted psychological torture. Others argued it was necessary. These were men who had participated in or laid the groundwork for the Holocaust. Making them bear witness to what their regime had done was justice. Patton never publicly defended his decision. When asked, he said, "They complained about privilege, so I showed them what the absence of privilege actually looks like." The survivors who participated in the process had mixed reactions. Some felt a sense of closure. Those men had finally been made to see it, to bear witness. Others felt it was meaningless. A tour brought nothing back. It didn't raise the dead. But all of them agreed on one thing: the complaints had stopped, and that was something. Years later, historians debated Patton's decision. Some praised it as an early example of forcing perpetrators to confront their crimes. A tour doesn't change everything, but it changed the silence. If you had been in Patton's place, what would you have done? Would you have accepted the complaints, or would you have shown them the same thing? Write your answer in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you in other videos. Stay tuned.